Hey, I'm Hailey.
And I'm Jessi.
And you're listening to
Personality Hire, the podcast where sometimes Hailey and I get to do some really cool things. We've had a lot of interesting opportunities come up in our career as podcasters thus far. Hailey and I have done some really big things, but today, folks, I need you to take your imaginary seatbelt. I need you to grab one side and grab the other. I need you to buckle it in. I need you to buckle it in because we have someone here with us today. We have a big get, as the people might say. You know what I'm saying? It's a big get because today we're going to be chatting with the one, the only, Miss Kathrine Barnes.
That was a thrill to see live.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
Sometimes things just like take over me and I become possessed. That's a little foreshadowing. With excitement.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel today. I feel possessed with excitement. Kat.
And not with demons.
Sure.
Why
would
but
you
famously, our friend Kathrine here has been possessed by a demon, not in real life, thankfully.
That I know.
We're not, well, I rebuke
that.
That's
to be determined. Who knows what we're going to uncover during this conversation.
But Kathrine was just on The Bondsman on Amazon Prime with also famously Kevin Bacon, who we're now how many degrees from? How many degrees does this make it? Like,
there's some
2?
question about this because I had it suggested to me recently that, spoiler alert, if he kills you on camera, that might be 0 degrees. So we're going either 1 or 2.
We're 0 then. Maybe.
If the logic applies.
Well,
yeah.
if the logic applies. So
You
like
and
1 or 2.
I have to say though,
we're like 4.
No, you and I are 1 degree. Here's the way here's the way that I look at it.
Mm-hmm.
And you can tell me if this is wrong. Actually, don't tell me nothing.
Yeah, we actually don't want to know if we're wrong.
Because here's the thing. Here's Kevin Bacon, which I mean, and before Kathrine walked in, I was actually the closest Bacon to Kevin Bacon. Like, let's be real. Like, we haven't gone down the lineage, but man, who knows? But now that you and Kevin did some stuff, and yes, he might have killed you, but if you've watched The Bondsman, you might need to see what other things happen in that whole little character development. But then you are 1 degree from Kevin, and that's exciting.
Or none.
Yeah.
Which is exciting.
It's a thrill.
Yes. So I think today what we really want to talk about, Kat, is we want to, of course, discuss The Bondsman, obviously. But I also think that it's really important to point out that while Kat and I know one another through Hailey, this is sort of like our first date.
Yeah.
And so I've got some questions that I'd like to ask you, preliminary questions, before we dive into kind of like your career and your current incredible acting journey with The Bondsman. But like, I want to know when you decided that acting was for you. I want to know what your earliest memory of being like, okay, I like this. Like, I want to continue to do this. Like, where were you 4 in your play at church, or like, what was it? Where did it come from?
When I was 4, I was supposed to be in a play at church, but my siblings and I all got chicken pox.
Perfect.
So could have been, isn't. There's a few answers to this question, and I think about it all the time, and I haven't landed on anything, so I'm just going to start hitting you with it. I know, so both of my parents are huge movie lovers, and they had great films on all the time when we were young. We weren't really a TV household, but like, I was watching my cousin Vinny before I went to school. So I know that by the time somebody asked me in elementary school what I wanted to be when I grew up, actor was on the list. I had no idea what it meant exactly, but I knew that it was a thing that was difficult and rewarding. And then I think most consciously and intensely, I was like 12 when Wicked premiered on Broadway. And somebody, the day the original Broadway cast album came out, brought it to middle school and started playing it at like a talent show rehearsal or something. And I was like, what is this? and it just felt so revolutionary, and I became so obsessed with it. And so I went to see it with my mom. I know the day. It was July 17th, 2004. So I was 13. And I was 10 rows from Idina Menzel belting out the high E in Defying Gravity, and I just lost control of myself. And I was like, oh, yeah, that what's happening inside me right now, I think that would be cool to do that to other people, but I couldn't really articulate that at the time. And then I found out that she went to NYU, and I was like, well, great, I'll do that at
Casual.
13. And it never really changed from there. I mean, I did kind of think I would be doing a lot more musical theater. Why did I think that without any training? Impossible to say.
Well, because you were a dancer too.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because I
How
also
did I just
thought
forget that I was a dancer?
I was
classically trained
That
dancer.
was going to be one of my next questions was,
I just
Yeah.
did you
that
dance?
right now.
And
Oh
I
yeah,
also
since I was
thought
like
that.
3 or 4
Okay.
years old.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I also thought I was going to be in musical theater with no singing
Well,
ability.
that's probably why I was
all.
at the
Dance,
That's true. That's why I was
Wicked
at rehearsal.
also a big thing. Yeah.
Did you do musical theater in high school?
Yeah, sure did.
Because Hailey and I like to talk a lot about
I did.
the musicals that she and I did in high school.
Oh boy, yeah.
And I like to bring this up every 5 to 6 episodes that I was the rabbi in Fiddler on the Roof.
Yeah, great.
And
I also
so
did
do
Fiddler
you-
on the Roof.
Perfect. Like, what was there one role that you remember playing in high school where you're like, I've made it? If you say the rabbi,
She's like, yep.
you're like,
rabbi.
it was me.
Nope. Oh gosh.
We can circle back.
It's a tie because the summer of 2004 when I saw Wicked was the summer my friends and I were transitioning to high school. And so we spent every day that summer just skrelting out every lyric we knew all around the streets of Johnston. So by the time we got to musical auditions our freshman year, we were like so hungry and so almost a lifetime's amount of vocally drained, but not quite yet. And we just kind of like took over the drama club. So it was like a cast full of freshmen.
That's awesome.
It was crazy. And I remember being really proud of that.
As you
It
should
was
have
The
been.
Music Man.
Oh,
Music Man.
okay.
So not
classic.
the biggest banger of all time.
Right.
Classic. Yeah.
were you the music man?
Yes. Look at her. Of course she was. I'm just kidding. I'm just
I
kidding.
was Marion the
great.
librarian with absolutely no business to be. But
Where are you
No,
from,
every
though?
business.
Kat, where are you from?
are you familiar with DJ Pauly D?
Yes.
Yeah, so he and I went to the same high school.
Yes,
Which is
yeah.
like absolutely iconic.
In Johnston,
It
Rhode Island.
tracks. It absolutely tracks
is-
as
yeah.
well.
That is a magical part of your story.
Yeah.
I couldn't know that.
How could you possibly?
It wasn't in your Hinge bio. I don't know. Before I asked you here today, I love that. Wait, did you know this man? Like in the sense of where you're like, or no? You just it just
I
like,
know
you
him,
know him.
on a visceral level.
Understood. Obviously,
But he did go
yes.
back to high school prom to take pictures with the,
He DJ'd my
Wait.
sister's winter ball,
which is
and I have
so
a
cool.
picture of them on my phone,
Yeah.
favorited. I like to whip it out every now and then.
The winter ball.
The winter ball.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay, that's good. So wait, I'm gonna refer to all of my my questions here because, like I said, this is like a first date for me, and I haven't been on a first date in a long time. But I imagine if I were to do it now, I might actually take the time to be like, I have some things I want to
prepared
get to
some
know about
questions.
you, right?
Yes.
As you should probably.
And I think that had I had that inclination to do it back in the day when I was dating around more, things might have gone more smoothly.
yeah,
and I might have-
It's an elegant way to say that.
Yeah.
I might have like wasted less time, you know?
absolutely.
Like, and been like,
Get down to biz.
I have some things. And then they might have said, lady, this is not
This
a
is
job interview.
Yes,
Exactly.
it is.
It
Your
might be.
job is to make me happy.
It was true. Okay, so but
It's a
then after we so my other two things that I wanted to ask that about kind of like your journey, like we're just trying to give all of our listeners kind of like a look at your journey up until now, sort of. So once you realized in high school, like this is it, Wicked played a huge role in your kind of discovery of not only musical theater, but like your feeling inside in terms of like what you wanted to give other people with acting and what you were receiving from it on a stage.
Yeah.
So from there, what did you do with that information about yourself?
You are such a good listener.
Oh, thank you.
What did I do with it? And good at distilling things. That is a skill I do not have.
What if I was like, we have to take a break? I'm going to cry. Hold on 1 second.
I'm
We'll be
sure
right
I
back.
will as well. What did I do with it?
You still went to NYU.
I sure did.
Mm-hmm.
But I was so afraid of, I don't know exactly what it was, but it was some element of the audition process. I did start my college career in some of the Tisch classes, but I was also, how do I say this? I had become pretty strange by the time I was applying for college, in a great way.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I had such wonderful parents who just were like,
Go for it.
sure, yeah, dress like an elf from The Lord of the Rings in middle school. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
My mom would sew my costumes for me, so I kind of just like,
Icon.
I didn't, yeah, she's such
She
a
is.
queen. I kind of just didn't develop a sense of self-consciousness for a while, which I'm so grateful for. It gets us all, but it took a while. So all that's to say, I had become kind of obsessed with international crime and
Espionage.
genocidal maniacs and like everything from Idi Amin to like Vlad the Impaler. I was just like so compelled. That's a bit of a benevolent word for what it was, but just, oh God, I want to swear so badly.
You can
Yes,
swear.
please. Be
Oh,
our
thank
guest.
Yeah.
God. Okay, great. That takes a huge load off of me because there's just
No,
like,
every
yeah.
time I upload every episode, I select this is
It's
explicit.
not for kids.
I say
Yeah.
this is explicit.
okay, fantastic. I swear to, maybe I'm just so used to you coming up with the most creative terms I've ever heard.
No,
Oh,
swear.
Wait, yeah, no, you.
Oh, fantastic.
Say it.
Okay.
We can do it at the same time if you want to.
No.
I was just like, what is wrong with these fucking psychopaths? I like
Yeah.
couldn't get enough of trying to understand the micropsychology and the macro impact, and so I had become just like the weird kid in anthropology. And so when I was writing my college admissions letter, I was like, yeah, I want to be an actor. Also, I'm obsessed with genocide and like the ICC. 5 pages later, I was like, here you go. And so I think what happened was they saw that and went like, oh boy, we're going to have to keep an eye on this one. So they put me in the School of Individualized Study. And that is what I did with
Got it.
the
Yeah.
the impulse, because I just like, I don't know, it just didn't occur to me that would be a hindrance towards my ultimate goal of wanting to be an actor. I was like, I'm
And it
interested
didn't.
in this stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I
huh.
wish, yeah, it didn't. And I wish more theater kids knew that because,
Right.
you know, I mean, for me, it was good because it kind of pushed me into the real world of acting in the industry. But because I was coming from the other side where I felt like I had to do something like doctor, lawyer, you know, like I was faking it broadcast, you know, with
Sure,
the theater
yeah.
minor. And then I made the other major. But honestly, you can get any degree and you probably should get another degree and then go into the industry.
It has served me
You know what
kind
I
of
mean?
well.
Yeah. No, it definitely has.
I'm not going to lie. When you said you were interested in international crime at the very beginning, my head immediately went to you. I was like, she's going to say something about Carmen Sandiego.
Oh.
For sure. I thought you were going to tell me that you had this inspiration about Carmen Sandiego and that
And
you
ultimately,
I
But-
used to play that game all the time on my desktop.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's
you
Carmen
did.
Sandiego and Mavis Beacon.
Because we had to learn how to type really quickly for
Yes.
Carmen. So we had to
Yes.
get her information out there.
Mm-hmm.
So then when you were into this individualized study program, which I think to your point, Hailey, is so cool for everyone just to hear that you can have these passions inside of you. You can have things that are outside of your realm of kind of like interest in terms of there's not one right way to do it. There's not one path to have. Like you can have separate interests that also will overlap at you at different times in your life. And you won't know why your interests are seemingly so different or distant. But then as you continue down the path, you're like, oh no, they intersect. They completely intersect, because I'm sure that you found that all of those things that you did during your individual study program, have served you in terms of like the way that you move through different characters that you play, or the way that you view different pieces that you've been in. And so I think that's so cool. Like just echoing what you were saying, I love the idea that we're like, there's not one way to do it. And spoiler alert, you can do multiple things at one time.
Absolutely. You
don't
probably
have to,
should.
You don't have to just like stick to one thing and be like, I'm all in on this one thing. You can do as many things as you want, given your time. You know?
Especially like being an actor, you know that being more well-rounded serves you.
Yeah.
Just
it
having
really
more information.
is just so preposterous how true that is.
Yeah. I mean, think of how many theater kids you know that just were obsessed with just being a theater major or whatever, and then going out into the industry and realizing, oh my gosh, now I have to be a business person. I have to also get a job. And then I have to find an agent, and I have to know how to like look all this stuff up. I didn't realize I was going to have to be my own agent. I didn't realize I was going to have to start a business of acting.
Yeah. You know what? I didn't really either. I think that kind of
it
punches
helps
us all in the face.
Yeah.
But yeah, my approach to the creative problem solving of it all has never, how do I say this without, okay.
Probably with a curse word.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody in school ever told me that because of my training, I deserved something.
Right.
Or anything like that. I've always kind of just been like, I'll deserve it because I go get it.
Because I'm going to get it.
Great.
Exactly.
How do I go get it then?
And then you figure it out.
You gotta.
Yeah.
What's the alternative?
We had a really good conversation a few weeks back when I was getting very excited about the Bondsman. And I said to you, I was like, I was sending her voice notes and I was crying.
Oh yeah, no, I was sobbing listening to these.
I was bawling and I was just like, I'm just so proud of you because you are one person that I know that works so hard and truly deserves everything good that comes to you. And there are some people that I'm going to be honest, like in the industry, it's just such not a fair industry that people will toot. And that's like exactly what we were saying. I was like, fart and get a job. And here I am doing all the, like here we are over here, like doing all these things, studying and doing all these things. And people can literally fart just because, and by the way, it's their role. It's still their role. And like, that doesn't change it, but it does make it frustrating, right? But you, on the other hand, were saying, yeah, that is one way to look at it. But you also said, this is all preparing us to be set up, to be in the right place when the Bondsman comes along.
Yeah, for sure.
And I feel like you have been so set up for the Bondsman for so long. Just like, I mean, truly, when there's been several things you've done since I've known you that you've built yourself up to be this business person for yourself and not taking no for an answer ever, which Jessi's a lot like that as well. Like you both are two people in my life that I'm like, two people that will not let something stop them, which is so admirable. And like, I am trying to learn that because I'm like crying in my sleep.
I think you probably have a little bit more of it than you think you do, baby.
Probably. I just freak out a lot, which, but I'm just so, I don't know, blown away by that. And I think that you probably took some of those things in college when you weren't being told, well, because you're coming from this program, you deserve X, Y, and Z, or because of this, you deserve this. You just went out and got it. And I would
around a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, then let's talk about though how like getting to what Hailey's talking about in terms of like you learning the business of what it means to be an actor in terms of having to really advocate for yourself, but also you're having to go out and go, well, I didn't know I was going to have to be this scrappy maybe. Mm-hmm. So you're in New York, you're at NYU, and then tell us kind of like, bring us up to speed quickly about how you're like, did you start auditioning in New York? Did you do any theater while you were there? Like what was the impetus for you to kind of really be pushed out of the nest and go like, okay, I'm an actor now?
Oh boy. This is, I'm going to do the highlights version of this, but I became very aware while I was in school. This is probably when the self-consciousness kicked in, finally, that Hollywood is obsessed with youth. And I got a little bit, if there's one thing that'll stress me out, it's the concept of calendrical time. And so I started being like, oh my God, 4 years here and I'm enjoying learning, but also half the time I'm really hyper-focused, invested in it. The other half the time I'm skating through. I constantly have my eye on the future, and I did school very quickly. I would not do that again, but I flew through it because
In 3
I was
years,
like
right?
2.
2. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, that's insane.
It was insane.
I'm sorry. You got
Yeah.
a
NYU.
bachelor degree in 2 years?
NYU.
Yeah, it should not be allowed, I think. But that is
Damn.
what
I
indeed
know,
happened.
Damn.
It's crazy.
I now understand so much about the.
Do you have nightmares still of like where you're like, I didn't turn in that paper?
I've got a test.
You have to. 'Cause I'm still.
You're like in the in the lecture hall, and you're like, I didn't study for this.
Or you're like, I don't have pants on. Like,
You know what? No,
well, that's good. You don't have a lot
I-
of trauma from
Ugh.
that. From that.
Yeah.
No, not from ever. No, who knows?
Not
Who
from
knows
life.
what
No.
exciting
From
trauma.
yes,
Oh, yeah.
I don't regret mostly anything, but like I said, if I could do it again, I would try to. I don't know how I would do this on my own. I would have future me come back and whisper the concept of presence into young me's ear, and then I would see if I could find any of that in that time because it was just a blur.
But again,
But
you
that's years of
learned
my life.
from that as well.
I sure did.
Yeah, how important it is to kind of sit back and just let it happen, and that don't worry, Hollywood will wait. Because they
And it
won't
sure did.
anyway. Yeah, it either won't or it will, and and spoiler alert, there will be a pandemic and strife, and you're gonna have to wait, sister,
Yeah.
and it's still okay.
It's fine. I like I said, I don't regret most of it, but I've learned. And so I finished school and I shockingly was depressed. And so I basically just tooled around New York for a year, slept a lot, and then I decided it would be a good idea to go try and get a PhD in political theory. So the very short version of that is that I did attempt to go do that for a year, and that was a mistake. Full stop. However, the creators of Veep went to the School of Politics that I was at. So when they had their first rough cut of the Veep pilot, they brought and showed it to like
That's so
the
sick.
politics grad students. I saw it and I was like, what the fuck am I doing here? At this time, I still was like, yeah, no, of course I'll be a full-time actor. I'll just like also do this because I've got competing interests, which is not reasonable. Academia is a nightmare. But I didn't know anything about the industry at that time because, like I said, I was sleeping for a year in New York instead of doing anything productive. And then I just the pilot was over. I went right up to the executive producers and I was like, hey, I would love to be in this show. Tell me how I can make that happen. Do you guys, who puts people on that show? I don't know. I don't even think I used the phrase casting director. And this person was just like, okay, great. He gave me the email address for the casting director on the
Ask
project.
for what you want is what we're hearing.
I would
Amazing.
never do this again. But I got his email address too. Spoiler alert, I did not end up on Veep, obviously. But it was good to have the reinvigoration of and the refocusing of oh yeah, that's what I'm here to do. So I quit. I went to New York. I had a friend from a study abroad program who had a really nice camera. She took my headshots. I started cold submitting to agents. One of them signed me. And I learned my first audition was a self-tape. And so I started doing that right away.
And when did you move to Atlanta? What year was that?
I first drove a car down in 2015.
Right. Okay.
And then I kept flying back to New York every month for a year and a half.
Were
'cause
you
I
doing
missed it.
in-person auditions there, or you just missed New York?
I just missed New York.
Mhm.
I could probably count on two hands the number of in-person auditions I had, even in the mid-2010s.
Yeah.
And just really started getting those reps in, learning about framing, learning about story, learning about my eyes. Yeah, just kind of crash coursing it myself.
Yeah, which I think is sometimes the best way to learn. You're not caught up in all these rules that you think there are, and instead you're just watching and learning, and also learning about story and watching stories and saying, oh, how did they shoot this? So how can I translate this to a self-tape? That's, I mean, something that every actor needs to learn, I think, and I think that's a really good way to learn, is just start doing.
Yeah. It's been very apprenticey for me. Of course, I've done so much training, but the big breakthroughs have really come in the practical attempts. And so while I'm doing the taping, I'm also obviously not booking anything. I was going back to Rhode Island all the time and doing theater there. And then I started doing extra work. And oh my God, Hailey. When I think back on like my first background job, I had no idea what it meant. I didn't know who anyone was on set other than like, it was Blue Blood. So like Tom Selleck and Bridget Moynihan. And I was like, okay. And I was like a reporter in the background. And I didn't understand the function of a background artist.
Right.
And so I remember I'm like dressed and I've been approved and I'm going up to what must have been a PA in college who I think is an authority figure. And I was like, hey, do you know what I'm supposed to be reporting on? I really like want to make sure that I'm not. I took that shit so seriously. Like I thought the camera was going to be like on my notes.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's so relatable,
bless
though.
me.
And you've been on several sets since, and you still know that every background artist usually still thinks that way, and that's okay. They're just passionate, and I love that people love to be there. That's really important because it takes everybody.
So generous of you.
And I think too, probably like all of those experiences that you have really probably driven a lot of what you brought to the table with the Bondsman. In terms of the project that you just wrapped on for season 1. Again, it is on Amazon Prime. If you have not watched it, it's incredible. Hailey and I have both watched every single episode.
That's insane.
It was
and
the
you should
easiest thing to binge too.
I think
we were like live tweeting each other. We'd be like,
yeah,
you know.
I think we have to jump into it because we have to. We've got to talk about the Bondsman because this is something too that we can talk all day about all of Kat's highlights and her accolades and everything that she's done throughout her career to get to where she is now. But like you've got to watch this show, so we have to like wet your whistle for it. I think in that vein though, I'd love to hear you kind of like just talk a little bit about what the premise is and your character. And your character has such an okay, listen, I'm biased, but it's probably the most interesting arc throughout the entire series.
No,
because
it for sure is.
The one thing that I don't want to give too much away in this, obviously, but Kathrine's character has this quite literal duality to it, where it's almost as though you're playing two roles within one woman. And so I would love for you to kind of just like give a little bit of information about like, what is this show?
Yeah, sure. I certainly didn't know the answer to that while we were filming it. We definitely found the tone towards the end of production and in the edit, but it is a half-hour horror dramedy.
Horror dramedy, yeah.
It blends drama, horror, and dark comedy.
Great.
So that's exactly right. That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
About a bounty hunter played by Kevin Bacon who is murdered in the first 3 minutes of the show and is then resurrected after going to hell for a brief stint to be the devil's bounty hunter for escaped demons.
Which is like
crazy.
It's insane.
Haley and I literally were.
I was like
live texting each other. I said, heart time out. I said,
shut it.
I said,
down.
I said, this about demon. This man's gonna get some demons.
Is demons.
And it's
demon bounty
about
hunting.
demons. It's about a small town and a man named Kevin Bacon, whose real name in the show is Hud. Hud or Hub. Hub is gonna be a demon getter. It's so like. But the funny thing about it too is that the way that it's shot, especially like that opening scene, because Hub really does die within like the first 3 minutes. It's so the gore is fantastic.
It's nasty.
The gore is fantastic.
Yeah.
And I am not, we all know I'm easily disturbed girly.
Yeah.
I'm extremely easily disturbed. But the gore, I was like, all right. Like,
But
it was
also,
good stuff.
Yeah, I agree with you. The campiness in it with the comedy, which I think anything that's scary with comedy in it, I said the same thing about The Sinners, which I was like, it has the best amount of comedy in it that creates this layer of like, I'm not going to have nightmares, but I am going to not stop thinking about this.
I had a lot of friends who are little scaredy cats, looking at you, Tess, who were like, okay, this didn't scare me as much as I thought. I'm okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm like, I told you.
I'm easily spooked as well, so I was thinking the same thing, but honestly, you also laugh within the first 10 minutes.
Yeah. And so your character, Cheryl, the cool thing about your character within this is that you are really kind of like the show's best kept secret, in my opinion, in terms of like the way that you were introduced to the audience and the important role that you play in the show. It's kind of like it's a trickle effect, which I find to be like really exciting, obviously. So to prepare to play Cheryl, like as I'm watching it, my biggest thing, I was like texting Hailey, I'm like, what sort of prep did you have to do? Not only in terms of like the role itself, but also stunt wise, because there are some scenes in that where I'm like, you were in the gym. You were definitely working on your fitness. Like there was something, were you tied up in a rope? Like, were you at Cirque du Soleil vibes? It always goes back to Cirque du Soleil.
Gotta be.
What was that like?
So globally, yes, prepared with stunts, but mostly because the person who became the stunt coordinator, James Hutchinson, on this project was my stunt coordinator on my last show. And I, the same woman who doubled me on Average Joe also doubled me on this. And a lot of the same, riggers and other stunt professionals were here. So I had this like built-in community of people who knew, oh, we've already thrown her to the mat like 5 days a week for months at a time on Average Joe. So that was when I got the biggest crash course of the technical training in. Like they were drilling me on like flying bow and arrows and just so much hand-to-hand stuff during Average Joe.
Right.
A lot of which didn't make it into the show, but they were like, oh, we'll use this again someday. Kind of. So that was the global prep, right? But I didn't know anything about Cheryl basically until like the day before I would shoot any given scene. When I had auditioned for her.
Yeah, did you know her outcome in the audition? Because I know sometimes the breakdown will say, where it's like the description of the role, it'll say like possible like you won't know exactly what's going on, and then someone will get the role and they'll be like, oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was a pretty detailed breakdown because the dummy sides that they included with it were left nothing to the imagination. Spoiler alert, the second scene I did was Cheryl. It was like, show us what it would look like if this girl's body was reanimated and then she crawled out of the dirt and like learned how to be in a human body for the first time and then killed a guy and then screamed at the camera. So I was like, okay, here's what that looks like. So I knew something like that was happening. I knew there was a demonic element. I knew she was a bartender. And other than that, the prep came as soon as I got the pages, and often I would text Hutch and be like, okay, what are we going to do about this one? And he'd be like, you're just going to come in 3 hours early. We'll throw you around a bit. We'll show you some stuff. We'll figure this out. We'll wire you up, like anything. And it was just very, very fast-paced and intense for prep. Not a lot of gentle prep.
Yeah. And at that point, are you just like, you're like, I'm going with the flow. Like, I'm not even, you can't really think about it too hard. You just got to, pray you get your call sheet early enough to where you can get to bed and like show up and have your mind right.
Yeah, I would, I was usually okay on knowing when I was going to work.
That's good.
what is the word I'm looking for? The content of each day, potentially tricky. Often Hutch would know things like a week ahead of me, and he'd sometimes give me a heads up because he had to, he'd start to do previses and all that stuff for like the actual content of the stunts to make sure everything is like safe on the day.
I also really want to honor your, because I anytime I'm watching a show, I'm really big on watching what kind of what kind of actor this person is and how they move and how they embody a character in a story. And one thing that I really love to see, because it's my favorite thing to watch you do anywhere, but your movement-based acting came in so strong. Like, I'm thinking about the jukebox moment was, I mean, that's like, it's not as much of an obvious one as there's other moments where I don't want to even say them because they're so cool that you're going to be like, ooh, like not just anyone could have done that. But Kat Barnes, the jukebox movement.
Yeah, gosh, that was
that choreographed?
No, that flew out of me. No, nobody asked me to do any of it. It was like goes over and is relieved to hear music. And what I took that to mean was like make out with the jukebox. And that didn't make it to air.
I was going to say, wait, I missed that.
Yeah, no, it's not on camera, but what I was...
But you finding that, like, the sinking in to the jukebox and then the, like just the movement, the air, the breath that you used in those moments were really powerful. And then leading into some of those final moments in the episode, at least being outside. I don't want to give anything away.
I was going to say, too, I think... Speaking of the jukebox moment, that again, you'll have to watch it to see exactly what we're talking about. But throughout this entirety of the last episode specifically, you start to find out that Cheryl, who is now intersected with, I won't say what kind of demon, but becomes entangled, if you will, with a demon, an entity. Yep. And you find that music is particularly important to this demon. Oh, yeah. And so that being kind of like a main thread throughout your whole arc with this character being like, again, that duality aspect.
In the whole show.
Is there any type of music specifically that like you as Kat were listening to throughout the time filming, or something that you would use to get yourself kind of like in the headspace to be like, all right, I'm about to really have to fuck some shit up on this set today, and I need to listen to this type of music to get myself in that space?
Hannah Montana. Definitely not.
No, I haven't really thought about that before. I don't think I listened to any music that didn't happen to be playing around me that entire spring. Yes, on the one hand, Lilith is... That character is very easily accessible to me. I didn't have to like kind of whip myself into any sort of frenzy to pull her out. But I also, I was just listening to podcasts all the time, and I'm pretty sensitive to music. It's very easy for me to hyperfixate and like have my mood extremely affected by it. And I mean, it was... It was like March, April, May of 2024, and my dad had just passed, and I just was like, I can't add any additional emotional intensity to this state of being right now. Right. I think, and like still do my job well. So it's a lot of podcasting.
Yeah. Which I think actually, like, I mean, it makes sense. And then also, I think it kind of could have been just as powerful to not listen and to know that this one thing that you're not listening to is something that you shouldn't listen to.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I did not do that intentionally. Yeah. But it was so easy to feel the starvation.
of music. Yeah, and again, it's like coming into that like crossroads of things where you're not preparing for this one thing because you're so hyper focused on this, whether it's just like trying to be there, and then having this other thing come in where you already like knew it, you know, like the music thing, and then having that crossroads in that moment so perfectly with that character and not even meaning to. Again,
Yeah,
just
I
living
didn't
your
know
life.
about the angle they were taking with. So this is a Bondsman version of this character for sure. It's not something that you really find in the literature, but so I didn't know her like primary drive other than like revenge and fury was to just get music back until maybe within a week before.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I found it out, and
Yeah.
so they were like, "This is the given circumstance," and I'm like, "Great," and that felt very easy to access, and then I assaulted that jukebox.
Yeah.
You sure did.
You did, but you also did it. It was almost as
Made
though
love to it.
the way that
I
the
think they were consenting.
I was gonna say, well, the jukebox to me, it read more of like, and then I'll drop it after this, but it read more like that you were leaning on it as though it was like your like mother, like you were leaning on it as though it was someone that was going to provide you this sense of like relief, but also comfort, and that you found a comfort in it. And so it was very, even though it was an inanimate object, it was just this very like tender moment with a jukebox, which is music, which is, we all have tender moments with music or tender moments with art, you know? And so like, I just thought that was, it really humanized this like freaky frack, like this like absolute nut job walking into this diner, like totally humanized them. And for a minute I was like, same girl. Yeah. I think too, though, I don't know, Hailey, do we want to do the would you rather on
definitely
this?
have to.
Okay, I think too.
Yeah.
And I'm also gonna break the fourth wall here. What's our time? How are we looking on time, Brandon? Okay, great.
Hey
So
now.
we're gonna do a little bit of would you rather just for funsies, and then
Great.
we'll wrap it up probably with like a personality hire question, if that's cool with you.
Yeah,
Okay.
horse-sized duck.
Oh gosh, a
Is
horse
my
size-
answer.
Listen,
Horse-sized duck.
I got some flack for that. Somebody was like, "They're anyway." Whatever. I digress.
I agree with you.
digress. Okay. Would you rather be possessed by a fallen angel like Lilith, or have the power to possess others for a day? Like, would you rather be possessed by a demon, or would you want to have the power to possess people?
Am I cognizant while I'm being possessed? I don't want to do that one. Never
'Kay.
mind.
Okay.
I would like to have the power to possess other people. Probably not use it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. That's nice. For good. Okay. So would you rather be stuck with Hub for eternity, or hang out with your special demon at a supernatural happy hour?
Be stuck with Hub for eternity or hang out with
The demon.
my girl at a happy hour?
Mm-hmm.
That one.
Yeah. I'm gonna tell you
Yeah.
something. I wouldn't want to be stuck with Hub for no time.
He's a man-child.
He-
It's very challenging.
Yeah.
Also, the other thing that's crazy to me is that, which we didn't even touch on this, but the relationship with his mom, first of all, is
Oh my
hilarious.
gosh.
But his relationship with his mother, I'm like,
Let's dig into this.
Let's
Yeah.
really
Yeah,
get
for
into
sure.
this.
Talk about this.
Let's get into this. Okay. And then let's see. Would you rather be haunted by your ex or Lucky's cowboy hat?
I knew you were gonna like that one.
It's got to be the cowboy hat.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Also, this is something too. This is a real inside baseball, but again, I'm just gonna expose myself. I sent her, as I was watching the show, a voice note about something that has to do with the show that no one else is gonna notice but me. But I'm still gonna tell you the height difference between Lucky and Jennifer Nettles, who plays oh gosh, doggone it, what's her name in the show?
Marianne Dice.
Marianne. I don't like it. It doesn't work for me because Lucky is such a dick that I don't need him to be that height either. I'm sorry. That's all I have to say about that.
You know what? We had a costume designer, a tailor, the woman who made my dress for the premiere,
Oh my gosh.
who
Mhm.
did a specialty jacket for him. And she later, apropos of nothing, to me was like, God, he has perfect proportions.
Like arm to like
Ratio.
oh wow.
Yeah.
Good for Lucky. Good for him.
Congrats.
Congrats, dude.
Okay, and I think maybe to wrap it up, we're gonna ask like one final personality hire question, because we believe fully that being a personality hire is important sometimes to get you into the door for
Sure.
things, for opportunities. But obviously, you have to have the the training, you have to have the knowledge, you have to have the confidence, all those things to actually succeed or get the job or get the opportunity. So is there any piece of advice that you would have for not only actors, but just anyone pursuing their passion or their dreams about what it means to be a personality hire and how they can utilize that to kind of further their vision for themselves or to create opportunities for themselves?
Yeah. I do feel like I need to note that I am not a personality hire. I would love to be. I think I'm in an adjacent category wherein the personality is like a fun surprise. If I'm not being a fucking bitch that day. But I think I have never ever gotten anywhere in an attempt to conceal myself. It can, I'm sure, be so tempting. I also feel very lucky that for the most part, at least in the ways that I see it, often plagues people I love. Like, I'm not a people pleaser. But I know so many people in this business are, in life are, and often we think that means like subsuming parts of ourself in order to either make other people comfortable or to advance in some way based on some archetype that we've seen work in the past for maybe another person who has not lived her life. And it's the tritest advice, but it's like, unless you're out here just being malevolent to people, like, do not try to change yourself. Why? That's wild. Can you imagine it? Doing anything in life, including pursuing acting, requires so much energy, and the amount of mental space trying to be anyone that you're not does take up. I mean, I'm not completely immune to it, of course, but like, you need that.
Right.
You gotta save that resource for something that you love and care about. Damn. Oh my God. So stressed out thinking about this.
No, but you're so right. And I would also like to disagree with you on being a personality hire because
Hardcore.
yeah,
Hardcore disagree.
You're definitely someone I want to be around because of your personality. So, but I do have one more question for you.
Yeah.
Aside from you, even though you wouldn't crown yourself this, who on set did you work with that you would say is a personality hire? And that doesn't mean, again, that they're only hired because of their personality.
Yeah.
But you want to keep them coming for their personality and they're a joy to be around, or for whatever reason, whether they're hilariously dry, they don't give a fudge, like, or just someone on, and it doesn't even have to be one of the actors. It could be anyone on set.
I mean, it's all the actors, but Beth Grant, who plays Kitty Halloran,
Yeah.
she has an entire career because you see her, you perceive her, and she just is exactly who she is. And who she is a goddamn delight. That woman has presence coming out of her ears. She's never, it just doesn't seem like she's ever been in a conversation she didn't really want to be in, or talk to anybody who was a stranger, or didn't have some just unhinged anecdote about something from her career to try and share with you, not even in an attempt to impart wisdom, just to like be with you and engage with you. Ugh, I love her so much. I've told her to her face so many times, and every time it gets more desperate.
You're just like, I love you.
I just like want you to know, Beth, that like I am your biggest fan.
Beth?
Samesies.
We love you.
Mama Bear. Kathrine Barnes, thank you for your time.
Oh my God, you guys, thank you. I can't believe I'm here.
Thank you for your wisdom, and thank you
Your
for
personality.
Thank you for our first date, and I'd like to ask you out again formally here in front of billions, basically.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you accept?
Without a doubt.
Perfect.
I'm honored.
I had a feeling, but I just had to ask. You know.
Titillated.
Perfect. Please rate, review, subscribe. Please follow Kathrine on Instagram. It's at Kathrine Barnes. Keep up with her. Please watch The Bondsman on Amazon Prime. It is chef's kiss. It is so good. Comedy, a little bit of gore, some drama. It's excellent. And it's got demons. So I don't know what else you want from me, people. Okay. Rate, review, subscribe, and we will see you next Thursday.
Janine, take us home, sis.
Wait, I want to do one.
Wait, do it.
Because my
Janine?
dog makes this sound
Elton.
in the morning.
Janine. Do it.
Okay. Take us home, sis.
That was so good.